Every life, when the veil falls gently from our eyes, and we begin to see people not as we wish them to be, but as they truly are. It is a quiet awakening, not loud, not dramatic, but steady and undeniable. We realize that trust is not a gift to be scattered like petals in the wind. It is a sacred offering meant only for hands that know how to hold it with care. Too many of us have learned this lesson through bruised hearts, broken promises, and the bitter taste of betrayal disguised as friendship. But today is not about bitterness. It is about wisdom. It is about sharpening your discernment so your spirit remains unbroken and your dreams remain protected. Because not everyone who smiles with you stands with you. Not everyone who walks beside you is meant to journey with you. And when you learn who not to trust, you begin to understand how powerful, how precious, and how purposeful your trust truly is. There is a particular kind of hurt that does not arrive with thunder. It comes softly, wrapped in compliments and carried on honeyed words. The sweet-tongued betrayer does not wound you with open hostility. They wound you with applause. In public, they celebrate you. They speak your name with admiration. They smile wide enough for the world to believe they stand firmly in your corner. And for a time, you believe it too. You feel safe in their praise. You rest in the comfort of their agreement. But behind closed doors, in rooms where you are absent, their language changes. The same lips that lifted you up begin to chip away at your character. This kind of betrayal is dangerous because it confuses the heart. It makes you question your instincts. When you sense distance or tension, you tell yourself you must be imagining it. After all, didn't they just compliment you yesterday? Didn't they defend you last week? The sweet-tongued betrayer thrives in this confusion. They build trust publicly so they can dismantle you privately. They gather your stories, your dreams, your struggles, not to protect them, but to reshape them into whispers that travel faster than truth ever could. And yet, the lesson here is not to harden your heart. It is to strengthen your discernment. Watch not only how people speak to you, but how they speak about others. The one who gossips with you will one day gossip about you. The one who flatters excessively may be masking insecurity, envy, or quiet competition. Praise is beautiful when it is sincere, but sincerity has a certain weight to it. It feels steady. It does not shift with the audience. It does not change its tune depending on who is listening. When you encounter a sweet-tongued betrayer, do not stoop to their methods. Do not answer poison with poison. Stand tall in your integrity. Let your character speak louder than their whispers. Truth has a way of rising, even when buried beneath layers of deception. And remember this, betrayal says more about the betrayer than it ever will about you. Their need to diminish you reveals their own fear of being unseen. Protect your spirit by moving differently once the mask has fallen. You do not need dramatic exits or public confrontations. Sometimes power is quiet, sometimes it is simply distance. Withdraw your vulnerabilities. Share your victories with those who celebrate them in every room, not just the crowded ones. Choose companions whose loyalty does not depend on applause, because your dreams are too sacred to be discussed in careless conversations. Your name is too valuable to be tossed around in jealous circles. And your trust, that rare and radiant offering, deserves to rest in hands that honor it both in the light and in the dark. There is a kind of applause that echoes loudly but carries no warmth. It is the applause of the jealous admirer, the one who smiles wide, stands tall in the crowd, and celebrates you with careful enthusiasm, yet inside their heart is tightening with comparison. They will congratulate you. They will say they are proud of you. They may even post your victories and speak your name in glowing terms. But beneath that polished support lives a quiet rivalry you never agreed to enter. The jealous applauder does not always recognize their own envy. Sometimes it hides beneath admiration. They study your moves, your growth, your light. They tell themselves they are inspired, yet each step you take forward feels like a reminder of where they believe they are standing still. Instead of allowing your success to expand their vision of what is possible, they measure themselves against you. And in that measuring, joy becomes competition. This is why their energy feels inconsistent. One day they are your loudest supporter. The next, there is a subtle distance, a faint tension you cannot quite explain. They may downplay your achievements with phrases that sound harmless but sting if you listen closely. They might say you were lucky. They might remind you how easy it seemed for you. They clap, yes, but the rhythm is strained. It is applause laced with discomfort. What makes this type of person difficult to navigate is that their behavior rarely appears openly hostile. They do not attack you directly. They do not openly sabotage you. Instead, they compete in silence. They compare in private. And sometimes, when the opportunity arises, they may withhold support when you need it most. Their loyalty wavers the moment your light grows brighter than what they are prepared to celebrate. But here is the truth you must carry gently. Your success is not an offense. Your growth is not a betrayal. You are not required to dim your brilliance to make someone else comfortable. The jealous applauders' struggle is not with you. It is with themselves. It is born from insecurity, from unhealed wounds, from dreams they may have postponed or abandoned. Their competition is a mirror reflecting their own dissatisfaction. Your responsibility is not to shrink. It is to remain gracious and observant. Celebrate with those who celebrate you without hesitation. Notice who feels energized by your wins and who feels threatened by them. Surround yourself with people who see your elevation as proof that elevation is possible for everyone. True supporters are not diminished by your rise. They are inspired by it. And if you must create distance, do so without bitterness. You do not have to accuse, argue, or expose. Sometimes the most powerful response is continued excellence. Continue building, continue shining, continue rising. Let your journey be fueled by purpose, not by proving a point, because in the end, genuine applause does not compete, it rejoices. And you deserve a circle that claps for you with both hands and a whole heart. There is another soul you must learn to recognize, and they do not arrive with loud applause or sharp criticism. They arrive gently, almost innocently, carrying a quiet sadness that seems to follow them everywhere. This is the eternal victim, the one to whom life is always unfair, people are always cruel, and circumstances are always to blame. At first, your heart opens wide for them. You listen, you comfort, you encourage, you remind them of their strength, but somehow, no matter how much light you offer, they remain devoted to the darkness of their own story. The eternal victim has mastered the art of avoiding responsibility. If a relationship fails, it was the other person's fault. If an opportunity slips away, someone sabotaged them. If growth feels uncomfortable, the world is conspiring against them. Accountability is a language they refuse to speak. And without accountability, there can be no transformation. They live in cycles, repeating the same patterns, telling the same painful stories, attracting the same disappointments, yet insisting each time that they are simply unlucky. You must be careful because compassion can become a trap. You may begin by wanting to help, but slowly you find yourself carrying burdens that were never yours. Their crises become your emergencies. Their disappointments become your responsibility to fix. And if you dare suggest that perhaps they hold a piece of the solution within themselves, they may turn that disappointment toward you. Suddenly you are added to the list of those who don't understand or have changed. Trusting someone who refuses to see their own reflection is dangerous. When a person cannot admit their mistakes, they cannot protect you from them. They cannot grow beyond harmful habits. They cannot build something stable because stability requires self-awareness. And if conflict ever arises between you, know this: they will not look inward. They will rewrite the story in a way that preserves their innocence and questions your character. This does not mean you close your heart to those who struggle. We all have moments when we feel wounded by life, but there is a difference between someone who is healing and someone who is hiding behind their hurt. A healing person may stumble, but they will eventually say, "I see where I was wrong." They will seek change. They will strive to do better. The eternal victim, however, clings to their pain as proof of their identity. Guard your energy wisely, offer empathy, but do not surrender your peace. Encourage growth, but do not accept blame that is not yours. You are not responsible for rescuing someone who refuses to swim. You are not required to drown beside them to prove your loyalty. Sometimes love looks like distance. Sometimes wisdom looks like stepping back and allowing someone to face the consequences that may finally teach them what comfort never could. And as you move forward, remember this: strength is not found in blaming the storm. It is found in learning how to navigate through it. Surround yourself with those who choose growth over excuses, accountability over accusation, and courage over complaint. Those are the ones worthy of your trust. There are people whose words feel like silk when they lay them at your feet. They speak with certainty. They look you in the eye. They promise to stand by you, to show up, to follow through. In the moment, their confidence wraps around you like comfort. You begin to rely on what they say because it sounds so sincere, so assured, so beautifully spoken. But time has a way of testing every promise, and with the promise breaker, time reveals a pattern you cannot ignore. Their commitments dissolve quietly. There is always a reason, always an explanation, polished enough to seem reasonable. Something came up, they misunderstood, the timing was wrong, they meant well, and perhaps they did. That is what makes it so confusing. The promise breaker does not always intend harm. Sometimes they are simply in love with the feeling of being dependable without doing the work of dependability. They enjoy the admiration that comes with offering help, the closeness that forms when they vow loyalty, the warmth of being needed. But when action is required, their enthusiasm fades. You will notice the imbalance slowly. You are the one rearranging your schedule. You are the one keeping your word even when it costs you. You are the one showing up prepared and present. Meanwhile, they are apologizing again and again. At first, you accept it. You extend grace. You tell yourself that everyone makes mistakes, but repeated broken promises are not accidents. They are habits, and habits reveal character more clearly than speeches ever will. Trust cannot survive on intentions alone. It is built brick by brick through consistency. When someone's yes frequently turns into absence, you begin to question not only their reliability, but your own judgment. You may even lower your expectations to avoid disappointment. You tell yourself not to count on them too much. You learn to have backup plans. And in doing so, you quietly acknowledge that their word is no longer solid ground. Be careful not to confuse potential with reality. A person may have a beautiful heart and still lack discipline. They may care about you deeply and still fail to honor their commitments. But caring without consistency is unstable. Love without reliability feels like standing on shifting sand. You deserve relationships in friendship, in family, in partnership, where promises are not performances but pledges. When you recognize a promise breaker, respond not with anger but with adjustment. Believe patterns. If someone has shown you repeatedly that their words outrun their actions, begin to trust their actions instead. Do not build your plans around what they might do. Do not anchor your hopes to declarations unproven by time. Protect your energy by aligning your expectations with reality. And remember, your own word carries power. Guard it. Speak carefully. Promise thoughtfully. Let people know that when you say you will be there, you mean it. In a world where many commitments fade like smoke, become someone whose word is steady as stone, and choose to walk beside those whose promises remain long after the conversation has ended. There is a person who does not shout, does not insult, does not openly wound, and yet after every encounter with them, you feel inexplicably exhausted. Your shoulders grow heavy, your thoughts become cloudy, your confidence, once steady, begins to flicker like a candle fighting for air. This is the energy drainer. They do not always mean to deplete you, but their presence leaves you carrying a weight that was not yours when the day began. Conversations with them rarely feel balanced. You listen more than you speak. You reassure more than you receive reassurance. Their problems are constant, their disappointments endless, their frustrations always urgent. And while compassion is a beautiful quality, there is a difference between supporting someone and being slowly consumed by their emotional demands. The energy drainer feeds on attention, on sympathy, on your steady supply of patience. Without realizing it, you become their refuge, but at the cost of your own peace. You may begin to notice how your mood shifts after spending time with them. What was once a bright morning turns into a dull afternoon. Your victories feel smaller, your dreams seem further away. They might question your plans, subtly casting doubt. They might highlight risks instead of possibilities. They may disguise pessimism as realism, leaving you unsure whether your ambition is wisdom or foolishness. And slowly, almost invisibly, your inner voice grows quieter, while theirs grows louder. The danger lies in how gradual this erosion can be. You do not wake up one day drained beyond recognition. It happens drop by drop, a little self-doubt here, a little emotional fatigue there, until one day you realize you are tired not from living your life, but from carrying someone else's emotional turbulence. You have become the container for feelings they refuse to process on their own. Healthy relationships exchange energy. They do not extract it endlessly. There is laughter, there is encouragement, there is mutual uplift. With an energy drainer, the scale is uneven. You leave feeling responsible for their happiness, accountable for their comfort, obligated to fix what you did not break. And if you ever attempt to create space, guilt may follow you like a shadow. They may accuse you of changing, of becoming distant, of abandoning them. But protecting your peace is not cruelty, it is wisdom. You must learn to measure relationships not only by history or loyalty, but by impact. How do you feel after you leave their presence? Stronger or smaller? Inspired or insecure? Calm or chaotic? Your body often knows the truth before your mind accepts it. Listen to that quiet knowing. You are not meant to be a constant source of emotional rescue. You are not required to sacrifice your well-being to prove your kindness. Set boundaries without apology. Limit access where necessary. Offer support, but do not surrender yourself. Because your energy is sacred. It fuels your purpose, your creativity, your joy. And anyone who repeatedly leaves you drained instead of strengthened is someone you must learn to love from a distance. There is a person who seems to arrive at the exact moment your life begins to bloom. When your hard work starts to show. When your name is spoken in rooms it has never entered before. When doors begin to open and your confidence carries a new rhythm. Suddenly, they are present, they are available, they are supportive in ways you do not remember them being during your quiet seasons. This is the opportunist, the one who is drawn not to you, but to your momentum. In the beginning, it feels flattering. They compliment your growth. They express pride in your progress. They want to collaborate, connect, celebrate. And perhaps a part of you is grateful they see what you have built. But if you look closely, you may notice something missing from the history you share. Where were they when you were uncertain, when you were rebuilding from failure, when your efforts were unseen and your dreams fragile? Their absence during your struggle speaks just as loudly as their presence during your success. The opportunist is not always obvious. They rarely announce their intentions. Instead, they attach themselves to your light. They speak as though they have always believed in you. They subtly weave themselves into your narrative, hoping proximity to your rise will elevate them too. Their loyalty feels conditional, tied to your trajectory. As long as you are ascending, they remain close. But the moment you stumble, the moment life humbles you, as it humbles us all, they grow distant. You will notice the shift when you need support more than celebration. When you call during a difficult chapter and their enthusiasm fades, when your victories pause and their attention follows. The conversations become shorter, the check-ins less frequent, the excitement dimmed. It becomes clear that they were invested in your shine, not your soul. Trust cannot be built on convenience. Real connection stands firm in both harvest and drought. The ones worthy of your inner circle are those who sit with you when applause is absent, those who remind you of your strength when you forget it yourself, those who see value in you even when the world is not watching. The opportunist, however, measures relationships by benefit. They calculate silently. They ask, "What does this association bring me?" rather than, "How can I stand beside this person with sincerity?" Do not grow bitter when you recognize them. Recognition is power. Instead, adjust your access. Let them celebrate from a distance. Share your inner world with those who have earned it through consistency, not convenience. Protect your rebuilding seasons especially. Those are sacred times when your spirit is tender and your vision is forming again. Remember, your worth does not increase with your visibility, and it does not decrease with your setbacks. Anyone who only values you at your peak does not truly value you at all. Walk forward with those who choose you in every chapter, in the rising, in the falling, and in the quiet in between. Those are the ones who deserve your trust. There is a particular unease that settles in your spirit when you are in the presence of someone who does not honor the truth. It is subtle at first, a small inconsistency, a detail that shifts, a story that changes ever so slightly depending on the audience. The chronic liar does not always weave grand, dramatic falsehoods. Sometimes their deception is stitched together from small distortions, half-truths, and convenient omissions. Yet over time, those threads form a pattern you cannot ignore. What makes the chronic liar so difficult to trust is not only the lies themselves, but the atmosphere they create. You begin to question everything. Even when they speak honestly, doubt lingers in the air. Their truth feels fragile, unstable, as though it might collapse under the slightest pressure. You find yourself replaying conversations, comparing versions, searching for solid ground in words that refuse to stay still. And in that constant uncertainty, your peace begins to erode. A person who lies frequently often does so out of fear. Fear of rejection, fear of consequence, fear of not being enough. They may lie to appear more accomplished, more connected, more admirable. They may lie to avoid accountability or to escape discomfort. At times, they lie so effortlessly that deception becomes their first response rather than their last resort. It becomes habit. It becomes instinct. It becomes as though their native language. But no relationship can survive without truth. Trust is built on the quiet confidence that what you are told is real. When honesty is compromised, everything else becomes unstable. You cannot plan with clarity. You cannot resolve conflict with fairness. You cannot build intimacy on shifting sand. The chronic liar forces you into the exhausting role of detective, always searching for what is real and what is performance. Worse still, repeated deception can make you question yourself. You may begin to wonder if you are overreacting, if your intuition is too suspicious, if you are being unfair, especially when they defend their lies with charm or indignation. They may accuse you of mistrust as though it is your flaw, not the natural consequence of their behavior. And slowly, the focus shifts from their dishonesty to your doubt. Guard yourself against this confusion. Patterns speak louder than apologies. A single lie, confessed and corrected, can be healed. But consistent dishonesty is not a mistake. It is a choice repeated. And every repeated choice reveals a value system. If truth is negotiable to them, then your security will always be negotiable too. You do not need to confront every inconsistency with drama. Sometimes clarity comes simply from observation. Step back. Listen carefully. Notice whether their words align with their actions. Notice whether their stories remain steady over time. And when you see that deception has become their habit, protect your heart accordingly. You deserve relationships where truth is not a treasure hunt, where you can rest in what is spoken, where integrity is practiced even when honesty is uncomfortable. Choose the company of those whose words are clear, whose stories remain consistent, and whose character does not require constant investigation. Peace lives in truth, and your spirit was never meant to survive on anything less. There is a person who does not storm into your life with obvious harm, but instead steps over your limits so gently that at first you almost question whether a line was ever there. The boundary crosser smiles while doing it. They laugh while dismissing your discomfort. They wrap their intrusion in humor, in affection, in phrases like, "I was just joking," or "you're too sensitive." And because they do not look like a threat, you hesitate to name what you feel. But your spirit knows. A boundary is not a wall built to punish others. It is a line drawn to protect your peace. When you say no, when you express a preference, when you ask for space, you are not being difficult, you are being clear. The boundary crosser, however, treats your clarity as a suggestion rather than a decision. They push a little further. They test your firmness. They borrow without asking. They pry into private matters. They demand access to your time, your thoughts, your body, your emotional labor, as though entitlement were the same as intimacy. At first you may excuse it. You tell yourself they mean well. You convince yourself that love requires flexibility. And yes, love does require understanding, but it does not require self-erasure. Each time you allow a boundary to be ignored, you teach someone how to treat you. Each time your no is softened into a reluctant fine, you signal that persistence will eventually win against your comfort. The boundary crosser often disguises control as closeness. They may say, "I just care about you," while invading your privacy. They may claim, "I'm only trying to help," while overriding your decisions. They blur the line between concern and control until you struggle to tell the difference. And if you finally gather the courage to stand firm, they may accuse you of changing, of becoming distant, of building unnecessary walls. But protecting your peace is not cruelty, it is maturity. Someone who truly respects you will not need to be convinced to honor your limits. They will not mock your standards. They will not repeatedly test how much they can get away with. Respect listens, respect adjusts, respect understands that access to you is a privilege, not a right. You must learn to say no without explanation that stretches into apology. You must learn to repeat your boundary without raising your voice. And if necessary, you must learn to reduce access when your words are ignored, because a person who consistently crosses small boundaries will not hesitate to cross larger ones when given the opportunity. Trust cannot grow where respect is absent, and respect begins with honoring what someone has clearly expressed. You are allowed to decide what feels safe. You are allowed to choose who enters your inner world and how far they may go. Do not shrink your limits to make someone else comfortable. The right people will rise to meet your standards, not resent you for having them. There is a personality that moves carefully through rooms, speaking softly about peace, smiling gently about unity, and presenting themselves as the calm center of every storm. On the surface, they appear balanced, reasonable, and emotionally mature. They often say they just want everyone to get along. They dislike conflict in public, and they position themselves as mediators, as bridges between people. But behind closed doors, their words begin to change shape. This is the two-faced peacemaker, the one who speaks harmony in front of you and whispers division when you are absent. Their danger does not lie in loud aggression, but in quiet manipulation. They may listen to your concerns with a nod and a sympathetic expression, yet later share your private thoughts with others in a distorted form. They might tell you they understand both sides of a disagreement while subtly encouraging tension between parties. In group settings, they avoid taking responsibility for their role in misunderstandings, choosing instead to appear neutral while privately influencing opinions. Because they never raise their voice, it becomes difficult to see the harm they create. The two-faced peacemaker often gains trust quickly. People feel safe around them because they seem calm and diplomatic. They rarely confront directly, which can make their presence feel comforting. However, true peace does not require secrecy. Genuine harmony is transparent. It does not depend on hidden conversations or selective storytelling. When someone consistently speaks differently depending on the audience, the foundation of trust begins to weaken. Over time, you may notice subtle signs. Conflicts seem to follow them, yet they are never clearly involved. Friendships become strained after conversations with them. Misunderstandings grow where there were none before, and still they maintain their innocent image, standing slightly apart from the tension they helped create. This ability to remain outwardly clean while quietly stirring discord is what makes them difficult to detect. Trust requires alignment between private and public behavior. A person's character is revealed not only in what they say to your face, but also in what they say when you are not present. If harmony exists only in visible moments, it may not be true harmony at all. Real peace is consistent. It does not shift based on audience or advantage. When you encounter a two-faced peacemaker, observe carefully rather than reacting emotionally. Do not allow them to draw you into secret discussions that exclude others unfairly. Avoid sharing sensitive information in environments where transparency is lacking. Strengthen direct communication with the people involved rather than relying on intermediaries who may reinterpret your words. Clarity reduces confusion, and honesty limits manipulation. It is important to remember that not everyone who avoids confrontation is trustworthy, and not everyone who speaks gently has pure intentions. Peace is noble, but it must be rooted in integrity. Choose relationships where openness replaces secrecy, where concerns are addressed directly, and where what is said in private matches what is spoken in public. Those are the environments where trust can grow safely and where harmony is not performed, but truly lived.